Hey Ryan, how are you, man?
Hey man, how's it going? Good.
Good,
Good to see you.
good. Is it, you're over in California? How's everything going over there at the moment?
It's summertime. It's Los Angeles, kind of hot, but it's traditional Southern California summer. No complaints.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And have you been pretty busy?
yeah, busy, 100%. I mean, every time I think I'm gonna have a mellow week, it doesn't work out that way. But I guess I should. I'm very thankful for that. Actually, busy's good, and I prefer my life that way. I think we all wish we had a little bit more personal time, but I'm lucky. My work and my personal intertwine, which can be is amazing, but can also be the double edged sword, right? Like,
Yeah.
where's the lines? But once again, I got no complaints. I'm pretty lucky in life right now, so life's good.
Nice, man.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, if you're all right, I'd love to kind of jump back to like how action sports, how that all began for you, and what kind of kicked it off, and yeah,
Yeah, man. I mean, if we go all the way back, I grew up in the Midwest. I grew up in Kansas City, and I was played traditional sports, played competitive soccer, you name it. Right, I was pretty standard, like from the suburbs of Kansas, and kind of traditional life. Believe it or not, there's a place called Snow Creek in Missouri, is where I learned to snowboard when I was like 15. Uh,
okay,
People like, I grew up skating, and the next generation of those kids, like even Shaun also just talked about Snow Creek on the bomb hole. Like he grew up started snowboarding there as well. So honestly, long story short, I played competitive soccer. I got severely hurt. I blew my knee in pieces, and I was never going to be able to play at the level I was playing at, like a very high level with a goal to go to college and play. I was on the national team, stuff like that. And that kind of just went sideways. And when I got healthy or healed, I started snowboarding and picked up skateboard, and kind of just, that's kind of where I ended up, fell into it.
were you skateboarding first, do you reckon, or is it sort of
I
like it like happened the
snowboarded.
same?
I think it was all about the same time. I can't really remember if
Okay,
it was, I think it was all when I was like 15. Snowboard, skate, kind of, mainly snowboarding. I mean, skating, I skated some, but I mean, I was never that great at it. But snowboarding was my passion. And then, I finished school pretty young, like at 16 or maybe just 17. And I did what every kid did from the Midwest and wants to snowboard. You drive 8 hours west to Summit County. And I end
yeah.
up in Breckenridge or Summit County, Silverthorne, I guess. But yeah, I left home pretty young and went straight to just be a snowboard bum, I guess. Yeah. Kind of didn't know
Were you
what.
on your own, or did you go with friends? Or
I mean, yeah, I went with friends. I moved out with some friends, and a couple guys moved out with, and just living that like mountain life, like just wanted to snowboard every day. I mean, I was 17. Who cares, right?
yeah,
Like, you want to hang out with your buddies and snowboard and work to make $400 a week, and you can pay your rent at $300 a month, and you can snowboard as much as possible, work as little as possible.
yeah.
You
And
know,
what did you do for work?
I mean, over the course of 5 years living in Summit County, I did a lot of things. I mean, I mainly worked in like snowboard shops or rental shops. Um, I mean, the last couple of years I lived there. I was a buyer and a manager at a prominent snowboard shop that was actually like got me into the industry. But I worked as a cook. I worked in rental shops. I probably had a couple other jobs. I have no idea what they were now. We
Yeah,
also, that town back in the late '90s was pretty dialed. Like once you're local there, you kind of get away with murder, right? Like you didn't really pay for drinks, even though it wasn't 21. When you go get your groceries, like every third item was scanned, and you only paid $25, but you walked out with like $200 worth of stuff. Like it was a very local town, so it was cool back in the day. I mean, yeah, it was just like I said, just kids kind of hanging out.
and were you like bouncing around different towns over there, or did you just stay in
Uh,
Breckenridge for a while? Or
I was in like Silverthorne when I first moved there, and then but then I pretty much lived in Breck for the next like 4 years or something like that.
okay,
So definitely, I'll claim Breck as my time in Summit County.
yeah.
Yeah.
And was the dream? It was just like you were just going to try and snowboard as many days as you could, and that was the
Yeah,
main
I think
focus.
everything I thought I was like, oh, I'm gonna go be a pro snowboarder. I'm gonna go snowboard and whatever. Like then I quickly realized like, that was the era like when Whitey was making films and the forum team was heavy, and like those dudes would all show up in Breck because like video parts used to be in the Breck Park. Like P-Gate Park was
Okay,
like, and I quickly realized I was not that good, and I got hurt a couple times, and I did not want to do that. So I was running a shop and a buyer, and I knew that I could be in it, but I could find a way to do it, but not actually be a professional. So I just started running shops and was a buyer, and kind of that was how I really got my feet wet. I started to meet people in the industry. And then there's a flipping point where just some life change stuff happened. I just had a daughter a couple of years, she was like a year and a half old. And long story short, I knew that me and her mom were going to stay together. We were great friends, but just wasn't going to work. And all I knew from the industry was that it was in California. And so I kind of got them settled, and I packed up my stuff and moved to San Diego with, I don't know, knowing one or two people that had industry jobs that initially lived in Breck, and a car full of stuff and a little bit of cash, and I just kind of was going to figure it out. So,
and you're still pretty young then, right? Like when you had your daughter.
23 at that point.
Okay.
24. And yeah, I moved to Carlsbad, moved to Oceanside or whatever, and that's when I got my first industry job with, Version of Velvet and Recon and doing all that stuff. That I knew those guys. Eventually was owned by K2, and I knew all those guys from when I was a buyer. The owner was a buyer, and I literally ended up in that office one day. Like I knew a couple of friends in California, and he's like, "We're going to this office to meet my friend." And so I was sure, I'll go. And I literally walked in the office just tagging along, and then the owner walked out of his office and saw me, and he knew me as a buyer. And he's like, "Hey, what are you doing here?" I was like, "Yeah, I just moved here. I'm trying to figure it out." And I walked into he said, let's chat, because I knew him pretty well. And I went in his office. I came out with a job offer as a team and marketing manager, which I didn't have a clue what it meant, but he was going to pay me $32,000 a year, and it was 2003 or 4.
Okay.
And I had a full-time job as a team and marketing guy, and I literally had no clue what I was doing or even what the job was, but that was it.
What did you do? Did you just kind of like wing it and then like learn on the job, right?
I was in charge of handling the guys on the team or signing the guys on the team. And I kind of I bullshitted my way through it, man. I just started meeting people and just fake it till you make it kind of shit. I don't know, it's a pretty loose program. Loose company, the company obviously wasn't successful, but it got me in touch with some great people, I got to meet a lot of amazing. My start in the industry, got to meet all the people. A lot of them I still run with today and have helped build this industry. The Ricky Melnicks of the world, and Dave Mateus and Steve Mateus, and those guys and top athletes. Like, Jana Mine was one of my closest friends for many, many years. I started the small offshoot version called Recon with Jeremy Jones, Jeremy Jones, and Jeremy is still one of my best friends today, 20 some years later, which is cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like I said, there's a lot of luck to it. I think right time, right place, and just a lot of luck. But that's the kind of quick backstory to get me to.
But it's more than luck, though, right? You were kind of putting yourself in those positions and
being
there, right?
Yeah, for sure. I had learned a lot about the space a bit from running a store that was in those days retail was king, right? Like the good old days when a good snowboard shop in Colorado or a skate shop was it was a key part of the integral system of snowboarding or skating, right? That's where it thrived. The world's not that way anymore, right? I don't think there's a shop that people flock to, or I'm sure there's some places, but what I'm saying, it's not the same dynamic anymore. But so yeah, I knew what I wanted to do. I just didn't know where I was going to fall into line, and that's how I kind of ended up working in the team and marketing athlete space, and I kind of never got away from that. That was kind of just how I ended up into it, and that's where I've stayed my whole life.
Yeah. And you were at K2 for a couple of years, and then went on to Rome, right? After that.
Yes. So I was in San Diego, and K2 owned the cargo company, and I think actually I went to quit my job. I was going to go work for an agent and be their junior.
Oh, really?
And
okay.
I was going to quit my job, so I had a call with my boss in Seattle to quit. And the same day I called for my call, he offered me to be the global team director at K2 Snowboards and moved to Seattle. And so I kind of got caught off guard, and I was like, wow, that seems like a pretty good opportunity. And so I had to go back to the person I was going to go work for and say, hey, listen, I'm sorry. I don't think I'm ready to do this yet. I don't know enough. And I'm taking this job at K2. So I moved to Seattle, and then eventually on to Rome Snowboards, where I ran Rome, all global marketing, team marketing, you name it, pretty much everything top to bottom globally for 4 years. And yeah, kind of just started going through the gauntlet of different companies I worked for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was like how was that time at Rome? I mean, you were like sort of
Rome was the heyday.
wearing a lot of different hats, right? And it's not just managing the team; it's kind of doing.
It was everything. I mean,
everything.
I worked with Josh Reed, and we had a small team, but those were like snowboarding was fun those days. It was like 2006 to 2010, I think, were the years I was there, and that were still really good glory days of snowboarding, right? Like SIA Vegas was alive and well. Rome was love him or hate him at that time, was a piss off as many people as possible, and the business grew really fast because we did it that way, and we were running loose. I think some of my best stuff I've ever done in my life are still those Rome days, right? Like we did what we did with limited resources and creativity was, I mean, I couldn't do that now. I'm not that creative, I don't think anymore, but it was some fun days for sure. A lot of stories that don't need to be told, but that brand, like I said, snowboarding was alive and well then, you know? And that was like my last true like core job, I guess. Like, I mean, I went to Red Bull after that, which you can never, I mean, how can I turn that down, you know? And I hate Vermont. I'm not meant for the East Coast. I want to be in California.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of it. Went to Rome, helped build that brand for 4 years, had some amazing times. We started making films and pushed the limits of marketing and what we could do. And the business grew a lot in those years. I think we like probably grew like times 4 over those 4 years I was there. Like just the stars were aligning when Rome was really making noise. And, you know, Nike was coming in. We were trying to piss them off, and we were trying to piss off Bird. We were trying to piss off everyone. We were trying to be Volcom. Basically, we were trying to be Volcom. But there's like a big mutual respect I remember between Volcom and Rome those years, you know, and the trade shows. It was like us and Volcom be paired together in the back corner, and like it would just be chaos. And it was like those days were fun. I was 20.
Yeah. It was just a party, right? I remember kind of heading over to San Diego around then, and
yeah, it was a party, man. And everything we do would be shock value, right? What can we do to get people's attention? And that was that was a big mindset. I mean, product was amazing, but it was like shock value. How do we, the little guys, grab people's attentions? And if that is fuck you, we hate these guys, that's okay. I mean, I fielded plenty of hate letters from parents and people of what we put out in our campaigns. Like, a lot of people did not like what we did, but that was fine with us. The more hate, the better, we kind of thought. But those days have changed, right? You can't do that anymore. Yeah. And I don't even know if that's the right marketing anymore. You know, I don't know if that's what I would want to put out anymore. But at the time, it was appropriate or cutting edge appropriate or whatever word you want to put around it. You know. And I still work with a couple of the guys that work with Rome that work with me now. You know, I still work with our designer, still work with Kevin, works for me at Homestead. So I mean, there's some ties that come from those years that will definitely go on forever.
And when did Red Bull, did they approach you, or how did that all happen? Like after Rome?
Yeah, I think it was. I was really close with Dave Mateus, which was the national events manager at Red Bull, and I don't remember exactly how, but he called me. He's like, "Hey, there's this opportunity coming up at Red Bull North America in sports marketing." And Red Bull has changed a lot too, but it was like at that time it was really run like nationally from HQ Sports Marketing. It was a really small team. Okay. And he called me. He put my name in the hat. He got me on the phone with them, and so and that's just led to some calls and a couple fly out interviews, and I ended up working for Red Bull for national athlete marketing. You know, but yeah, it was definitely from a call from my relationship with Dave Mateus.
And then that was sort of to come in and look after like snow.
I kind of came in
marketing around it.
Yeah, mainly snow. But I think when I first got there, like it evolved when I was there for my 3 years. But like, I think when I first got there, it was like, all right, manage Travis Rice and produce Art of Flight, manage Shaun White and deal with everything around Shaun, and then maybe deal with at first it was like those were pretty much it for the first like 6 months or whatever. And then maybe had to do a couple things in bike, whatever. It evolved to like taking over skate and dealing with Sheckler and building the whole skate team, or working with bringing in Tom Curran to help build the skate team, which he's still there. And then taking over all BMX, you know, it slowly evolved and taking over all snow. But at first it was like, worry about Art of Flight, worry about Travis, worry about Shaun, which was at that time, obviously a big investment for Red Bull. Yeah. And so that was like, they need someone that could come in and really focus on it. And yeah, that's how it all happened, you know?
And it was kind of, a bit of a different level with budgets and stuff, right? I mean,
Yes, slightly.
just a tad.
Yeah,
And was that sort of then like managing like their whole program and everything, or was it sort of like the focus at one point was Art Flight, focus on the movie?
Like,
and
the first year was Art of Flight and Shaun and Travis, and like, just knowing that space, and they're all invested in that film, and Travis, and just all those things. But yeah, budgets were on a different level there, like even though there's the core sports team at that time was Media House had just started, but the core sports team was like, me and Dave and a guy named Peter Jasinski and Chris Motter. And Chris Motter's our boss, and he was one of the most amazing humans I've ever actually worked for. And he challenged me really hard, but he also would be like, all right, just do whatever you want. Don't fuck up. Make it cool. Like, if you make it cool, whatever you want to do, you can do it. Just make it cool. If you screw up, it's all right. You're going to screw up sometimes, but just make it cool, and I'll protect you. And that's why Red Bull was so cool back in the day. I think it was like no one overthought stuff. It was like, just go do shit. And obviously there's some planning in Art of Flight stuff, but like it was kind of like still a little bit run loose program in sports marketing. Kind of got the tail end of that, I think. But with that said, I think those are some of the biggest success stories that Red Bull had, because that's how it was just like, just make cool shit happen, And there was budgets, but they were also loose.
Yeah.
I think, if you needed to spend, you could find ways to spend, and it wasn't endless, but you could go find ways to make stuff happen. If it was a good idea, it was going to happen.
Yeah.
So,
and would that be like discussing that with the athletes as well as the sort of the team internally, or are you like?
It was a combo, if someone had an idea, we just come up with it, or it could be as simple as like the process back then was like athlete and me have an idea, take it to boss man, explain to it, kind of go do it, hire people to help you get it done. Like, figure out how we're going to distribute it, what we're doing with it. I mean, it was kind of like a shotgun. We'd shotgun approach. We'd just like pull stuff off sometimes. I mean, we did stuff that would just kind of like these ideas would show up and we'd appear, and then we'd just be off and running, like beg for forgiveness, never ask permission. That's the approach, I think, a little bit. I mean, it was more strategic than that. Don't get me wrong, right? It's a very intelligent, strategic marketing powerhouse, but it's just evolved more now. It's a lot more true business style now. Like there's planning and accountabilities and stuff like that. And there still was then, but it just like I felt like it was just kind of lawless back then.
Okay, yeah. And was there any sort of people that you would say like were guiding you or kind of influence you within that role?
At Red Bull?
Yeah, or just like almost leading up to that, I guess. Like,
I mean, man, I've had a lot
getting into the agency world, and
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've got a lot of good relationships. I mean, I've had a lot of good bosses or mentors over the years. Like I said, Chris Motter, when I worked at Red Bull, that hired me was, non-traditional, I'd say, but he challenged me to do good stuff and push limits and stuff like that. He protected the people around him. And I mean, I think my peers, right? Like at that point I was growing up with the other marketing team, people from around different companies, from some of the Burton guys, or Ricky Melnick that ran Foreman DVS, and Steve Mateus at Rockstar, and all those guys. I mean, we're all kind of on the same age and same group of friends. We kind of became really close. We start to end up traveling the world with a lot of the same people. You start to get pretty close. So I think we all kind of grew in the space together. I mean, those dudes are all still my best friends.
And there's all like mutual respect, even though it's different companies,
yeah, it didn't
right?
matter what company we were for. It's just like we all before we were just young, being idiots, and companies were letting us do it, and now we're just still involved with companies, but we're just older and more strategic, and we're older, and so we're not really wild anymore.
And that was sort of what, like 30s, like mid to
what's that? My Red Bull days. I was like early 30s when I was there.
Okay.
I think I went to Red Bull in 2010, so I would have been 31 or 32, 43 now. So, yeah, I mean, the big difference between 43 and 31 mentally. And I couldn't spend 250 days a year on the road anymore, but I was at Red Bull.
Wow.
So I couldn't go on an Art of Flight tour around the world like I did. But at the time, it was the time of my life.
Yeah.
Just a different time, a different era too, a different era in the space, in snowboarding or in action sports, or whatever you want to call it.
What do you reckon the biggest changes is, sort of now looking back?
I think just the whole space has matured a bit, or people. I don't really know. That's interesting. I think it's just the money's not as free flowing. I think it's everything's more strategic now. I think that the way people take media in these spaces now has killed a lot of those big amazing moments, because everything's so accessible, right? Like,
yeah, and just instant, isn't it? I mean, and then
yeah,
they've kind of almost got to do it, and
yeah. I mean, like people's time to process information or process media, like, dude, it's 20 seconds at a time, right? It's like it's so hard. Like the art of filmmaking, the print magazines, all that stuff that was so important to all of us growing up. I mean, still important to me, but I mean, a lot of that's gone, right? It's still there, and there's a place for it, but hopefully everything goes in cycles. So maybe it'll come back, like I think feature film should come back. I think people not get to see something for a year should come back, like people waiting around and have those big moments. But also, like, there's a lot of positives with what the world is now with internet and social media, and everyone's a brand and stuff like that, right? I just think it's just changed, but adapt or die.
Yeah, that's it, man. And so, after managing those guys at Red Bull, was that sort of then something that you thought like you would like to try and give that a go as a sports agent, and almost
over the course of my 10 years or so working for brands or whatever it's been, maybe more than that, I always worked with athletes, and I loved athletes. And to me, it's always like, what's best for the athlete? And I think it came to a head where it's like, I often thought what's best for the athlete more than what's best for the brand, and that's a fine line. I tried to always do a good job on both sides, but I think that what really made me stoked and what made me happy and maybe what I really want to do is I wanted to help these amazingly talented people that most of them were my friends achieve their goals, and like make sure they're getting their fair shake, right? As all these things I'm up to, these spaces like the Olympics and just bigger dollars and non-endemics and stuff like that, right? Like let these guys get not taken advantage of, let them get paid their value, let them really be treated like professionals and make a real living out of it. And with that said, right, you can't be good at everything. Like I can't do what they do, but I don't think they want to do what I do either, right? So the reason I switched over and became an agent was I just really believed in helping people and watching these guys get what they deserved, and just helping, like I said, make sure they get the most out of the short window they have, right? Like, plus, and I love it, and like I said, it was a chance just to do it. It's I've got their best intent at heart, right? So their agenda is my agenda, and also hopefully, I'd like to say hopefully I've helped a lot of them, like giving advice and kind of help mentor them on how to handle business and how to do stuff and how to make the most of the opportunities as well, So,
and would you say, I mean, it's pretty similar between the sports? It's sort of just looking at it as sort of like,
they're all athletes.
Whether it's snow, whether it's skate, it's sort of
snow, skate, surf. I mean, they're all came from a snow background, but I work in the bike space. I work a little bit in the skate space. I work in the surf space. Like, it's all just knowing the good people and understanding how they work. Like there's no. I can go work in golf and negotiate the same there as I do here. It's just knowing it's not rocket science what I do. It's just managing people and understanding how to, and you can't manage anyone the same. Everyone's different,
Yeah. And then different sort of different surroundings, different support system as well, right? And it's not.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I mean, like, but it's just, if you do it right, it's just like diving into the space and diving into the person and realizing the person's got an amazing talent. And then figuring out a program for them.
Yeah.
And how to work with them. So, and what they need to be successful. So,
and how is that whole Olympic experience with Red Gerard? I mean, that would have been, was that like the first time for you with someone like one of your clients winning gold?
Yeah. I'd been to the Olympics before in Sochi. But yeah, it was a totally different experience. I had a couple of young guys there, and it was cool. And I understood it. I got to see it. And then, Red was like the perfect storm, right? Like I've told the story before. Like the goal with him, he was so young. It was like, okay, let's just qualify for the Olympics, right? Like everyone knew how good Red was going to be.
Yeah.
We from a young age, 12 or 13, people knew he was different. The goal was like, let's just qualify for the team. And then that happened really quickly, and he qualified first. At the same time, I've been working with Ben Ferguson too. And Ben was like in the heyday, like, the people's champ, right? Like did it his way. So like he qualified first for the men's pipe team too. So like I got my 2 biggest clients and 2 of my longest clients there. And like, it was like, I was on the perfect storm, but for Red making it, we were like, well, okay, well, he made it, but he may have maybe he's got a shot. And then as we got closer, I was like, he's got a shot at this to even really, he's like now not, because that process was like a year long, right? So like the goal is to make the team, but then when we got to the time of the Olympics, like he's got a real shot at this. Like he's matured and progressed and qualified first. And I was like, it's on.
Yeah.
And then, ever seen that day? Like it was 8 a.m. It was 8:30 in the morning. It was freezing cold. There's 18 Gerards with me, which is a handful alone. It was the last run stuff, you name it. Like it all came together. Like it was surreal. It was one of the craziest moments. Like it was the most surreal moments of my life. And I think that's why it's so special. We had no expectations, but I think that's what made it also so amazing. And then just quickly reacted and make the most out of it. That was a chance when they had, slopestyle beginning and big at the end. So like we quickly, like I was on the phone. I mean, we were on the gauntlet for 24 hours, but I was on the phone and we had him back in America like 2 days later to do a full media tour. Cause he's the only person that was going to, like Olympics is, if the American wins, like it's big in America. And so like,
yeah,
since the Olympic Games was so long, no one was coming home because all events were spread out. So I was like, no, he's going. And we literally, so being the first to go back and do media in any sport, and also the first, I think it was like first or second medal event, and him winning it. So to go back quickly, we just capitalized on it. And luckily we had great partners with Mountain Dew that facilitated all that for us. And we were off and running. And so we did the best to make the most out of the opportunity and get the most exposure, most media. And I think that had something to do with why the success was as well. Like him being willing to go and then come back and compete again. And this is
he could have been like, "No, I'm gonna."
Yeah, it was a lot. Right? He had no idea what was. I mean, he honestly had no idea what was going on. I mean, it was like he did, but he didn't really fathom it. I'm sure you've heard Red talk about it. Like he didn't know how big the Olympics was, and he didn't realize what a big deal it was. But I mean,
just being able to process it as well, right? I mean, once you win it,
and like, why am I going here and then coming back? And he quickly realized, like, coming to America, like it only lasted for a couple of months, but he get off planes, there'd be people waiting for him, people tracking him, and I think him being on the late shows and just like, I mean, he's a child at this point. He's 17's a child. I don't care what you call it. Like you're a kid. His brother Malachi traveled with him because I had to stay in Korea for other events, and then get back after him. We did, 3 or 4 more New York trips in a month. We were just bouncing back and forth between LA and New York, LA, New York, LA, New York. And I mean, it was cool. The whole thing was amazing, and I think the biggest thing about that was that it wasn't just Red win Olympics. It's what Red did next and showing how talented he really is, and video parts and winning other contests, and really showing that he actually is maybe one of the best snowboarders in the world. And he's one of the best competitors. I mean, that's the most important part to me. He's the real deal. Yeah. And probably one of my best friends, believe it or not, actually, like 22 years old and I'm 43, and he's literally like a little brother, one of my best friends. And I spend a lot of time with him. Yeah.
And that's it. I mean, like it becomes more like family, right? If you're traveling together with all these guys and
100%. Exactly. And I did all that stuff. And Red being young, I probably spent more time with him than any other client. But like I said, Red's my client, but Red's my family. He's my friend. And, that's obviously the perfect working relationship, right? If that happens organically, which you can't force it, then you have the perfect storm, right? So, yeah.
Nice. And like now, how are you kind of balancing things between Evolution and the Homestead? And what are you kind of focusing on at the moment?
Yeah, so I started Homestead Creative, which is a production house, creative agency, whatever you want to call it. So a little over 3 years ago, me and Aaron Blatt was always traveling with us, and best photographer, shoot with all our guys, and we're seeing all this stuff happen. When people want to make content and stuff like that, we're like, well, why are we letting this go somewhere else and let someone else take control? Like, we already are with you guys. We have all the filmers.
Yeah.
Why don't we created to create a platform for my athletes and the people he was working with to do their own projects and create content for endemic brands, for non-endemic brands, for whatever, right? So we just started out like kind of same approach, athletes first style. Like, what do these guys want to do? Let's make it come to life. Nice. And it's we started with the first movie, Joy, which was a Red and Ben and Sage project. And it's like what these guys wanted to go do something different in the film space. And so that's how we started Homestead, to do that project. But the goal was really to make it a commercial agency, which it is now more. We still make films, but like we've done stuff for like Specialized Bikes. We've done lots of for Red Bull. We've stopped for Apple, for Burton. Yeah, I mean, the list goes on, right? A lot of different brands. So the goal is just to create this other company to create amazing content. And
yeah,
especially in the world we're living in, right? People pay a lot of money to shoot 60-second content because it's got to be high level now, So everything's short form for the most part, but we still make our long form movies. So
are you saying, are you like is the majority of the work, is it that short form, or are you kind of, is there
majority of the work is like short form ad campaign style stuff?
Okay.
But we still make our films. Like, we did the Joy film. We're for Burton to do the Burton One World film. But yeah, I think the traditional advertising, right, is all in short form content for brands, if that be 10 minutes or less or 2 minutes, 30, whatever it is, it's all different. Right. So,
yeah.
But I think I split my time, like say probably 65 for Evolution, 35 on Homestead, but it's hard to say. There's a lot of crossover, right? Like,
yeah,
Homestead stuff usually involves some of my clients. So where does that line go? And we're usually involving them as much as we can, or we're doing the work because we have those guys. So it really just depends.
And then it will interlink with, with brands that you're working with anyway, right? And
exactly.
With athletes. And,
exactly.
Yeah, that's cool.
So yeah, no, I mean, it's been a fun, like it was just evolution of myself and what I could do for a living and how I could continue to try to create the best environment for people and get to work with amazing, talented friends. They're all filmers and editors, and Homestead's almost like a hub for a bunch of creative people to come together. Mm-hmm. But just me and Aaron just took that and wrapped it into a pretty bow, so to speak, and brought in a lot of creative people. Like, someone just had to kind of organize it all, and then the platform was there, right? So it's kind of how I look at it, I guess. Like, not to downplay it, but just we had all the research, we know the people. Why don't we just put this together and make it a company, and then use our network to create the best content possible? And it helps protect my athletes and my clients and create, their brand, that the people they're working with, the content they're putting out is the best possible.
Yeah. Yep. Nice. And are there any projects or any films that you can talk about? Anything coming up? Or?
Yeah, for sure. No, it's we're coming up this October. We're releasing the new film that we'll call it On the Backbone of Joy, from 3 years ago, called Fleeting Time. This is 100% a Ben Ferguson film, directed by Ben Ferguson and Aaron Blatt. It's a Homestead project that is being co-produced with Rebel Media House. So, we definitely went all in on it. The writer list is Ben and friends, but it's Ben and Gabe and Red and Mikkel and Mark and Haley and Travis Rice, and we have the marketing machine of Red Bull behind it, which will be pumping out the whole tour and support of the good brands like Burton and Quicksilver and stuff like that. 10 Barrel. Mm-hmm. So it's been a pretty cool project. Like I said, the art form of these big long film projects, they're harder to get done now. The people don't want to invest them as much. People are, like I said, so used to just short form. But I think, every couple of years when some of these things come out, they're really special. And we'll call it passion projects still, but it's like, it's what those guys, meaning Ben and those guys, still really care about. And so it's like helping them achieve what they want to do. Right. So,
So then they have like it's looking back on it as well, isn't it? It's not just
it's like those are
the events and winning, and
Art of Flight is timeless, and events, those key moments are timeless. You look back to when we grew up, like all the MacDon films were. I mean, I could probably still put one on. I can tell you what video part is, maybe, but we grew up on that type of stuff. So it's that art form of making a true film and like showing the talent and how hard it is. And there's so much that goes into it, like we all know, but just they don't get made as much anymore. like not at a high level, or they're just a quick release online. That's it. But this will have a full like 10-stop US tour, and you'll be able to stream it on Apple and Amazon and Rebel TV, the whole nine. Like it's, you know, trying to really get eyeballs on it on a bigger level.
Cool, man.
So,
and
also,
how is it like the last couple of years with everything going on with the pandemic and stuff? And like, did that kind of put a halt on a lot of these projects, or were you guys kind of?
We actually were fine. We were fine. Like we were doing the Burton movie One World when the pandemic hit. Like we pushed it. We were like, it was March. We were almost done with the Burton film. I think the crews were in AK, and also everyone's like, we got to get out of there. Everyone had to pin it home.
Yeah.
But I mean, when we started Ben's project, you know, 18 months ago or so, it was kind of like the world that people were traveling in. It was snowboarding, right? You can be outside and film. It was like, could we cross borders? We couldn't go to Canada year one. So we had to stay in the lower 48 or Alaska. But so there's some dampening on some of the travel where we wanted to go. But, you know, this last year has been pretty normal, right? Like the world's opened up. And then even through that, like the smaller commercial stuff, like we at Homestead were so small and nimble. Like, you know, we could do a lot of stuff with 3 or 4 man crews. We're not a big studio, right? Like we don't take 20 guys to a shoot. We take a crew of like 4 or 5 for a commercial shoot, right? Audio, a couple cameras, a producer, the talent. We flew under the radar. We didn't really say it, but that was the key, right? If you could do small productions good, then you were dialed. Yeah. Because you could kind of follow COVID protocols, but have small groups and get around it, you know? But I mean, there's been challenges. We all know COVID put a damper in a lot of that type of stuff, but we found ways to work through it pretty easily.
Yeah. And then now it's sort of kind of, I don't know, everything's sort of it's back, right?
People are over. I don't care if it doesn't matter anymore. I don't think people won't. We're at that point, right? Like,
I think so. I think especially like, I don't know, where I'm here in Europe, it's sort of everything's, it's back to like 60,000, 80,000 concerts and stuff. And
exactly. Yeah. I mean, like, it was a weird time though, for sure. I definitely, I mean, I think like all this, like, I'd never want to talk about it again. I don't want to think about it, but like 20 years, even 10 years, going to think back, like that's something that happened in like world history that was going to be once in a lifetime type of thing. And hopefully, but you know, like that's like, we grew up watching our parents have these moments of like, maybe it was the Vietnam War or whatever, these big, or 9/11, unfortunately, where it's like this traumatic thing when I was younger, you know, like this was a world, like something that affected. It's going to be interesting how it gets looked upon 10 years from now, 20 years from now, you know? Yeah. And like I said, who knows? I mean, hopefully I never have to deal with it again. Yeah, man. In my life. But yeah, it was cool. It is what it is, you know, just head down, keep working away. Yeah. So it didn't really affect my business too much. So
nice. Come on. And what's the best way if people if they want to reach out and get in contact with you?
The social's fine, you know, at Ryan Runke, or you can throw my email up on the thing if you want to, either my Homestead one or my Evolution one. You've got that. You can, if you want to throw it on the screen, that's fine. Nice. Yeah, I'm always around. Like I always try to, you know, people want to reach out, have any questions, I'm always down to help or to give advice whenever I can, as much as possible. You know, time's not super available, but I always try to make time. So yeah, like I said, I'm pretty lucky in what I do, and you know, nothing fancy. I'm sitting in my back house is my office, and you know, just I'm lucky. I get to work with amazing people, and I'm stoked to, you know,
doing what you still enjoy as well, right? And
exactly. For sure.
Obviously, it's like any job is going to be parts where you don't like, but you know, it's like
it's a job. I work really hard, but I mean, like I said, I choose to do it, and I'm lucky, and I've built a pretty good little life for myself, and you know, I'm pretty simple guy, so it works for me.
Cool. Ryan, thanks so much, man. It's been wicked, like hearing your journey, and looking forward to seeing the movie when it comes out as well. And
perfect. Yeah, October 1st world premiere, and then should be out for release like early November. So we'll go from there.
Sick. Cool.
All right. Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Cheers.